It'd be interesting, I mean, we'll never know, but how he felt coming away from that. Like you said, he was due to give evidence tomorrow. It was brought forward a day early. It was expected to be a full day. He only got a couple of hours. Rory, what are the tactics at play here from a legal point of view?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot has been made of the fact that yesterday Anthony White-Casey for Associated Newspapers was supposed to do opening statements for 2 days, and he only did 2 hours, which pushed Prince Harry into the box a day early. And this is a technique that can be used to try and rattle a witness. And then today, interesting that they only cross-examined Harry for 2 hours. Now, in my experience, if you have a witness on the ropes, you keep going. He was due to be cross-examined for a day, and they took him out. They pulled him early, because I think Harry was doing well, actually. Now, I think what a lot of people think about Harry is that he's a playboy and he's not very bright, but actually, he's intelligent, he's articulate, he's genuine, he comes across genuinely, and also he knows these issues inside out. He's lived this case, and that makes, in my experience, for a very compelling witness. And I think that although there were no hammer blows landed by either side today, I think Harry held up well enough that they thought, this is damaging to us. And he said a few things. For example, he said, I feel like they were trying to drive me to drink and drugs to make more press out of me. He talked about the misery inflicted on Meghan and started choking up. This is the kind of emotional stuff that cuts through to the public. And I think maybe there was a tactical decision by Associated's lawyers that this isn't going well, we should pull him out early so he doesn't do any more.
Let's start with what you're looking at on your screen right now, because this image tells a story, and not the kind of story the tabloids wanted to tell. Right there, in black and white, we have a media lawyer, someone who actually understands how courtrooms work, saying something that has caused visible discomfort across certain newsrooms. Prince Harry, according to Rory Lynch, is not just holding his own in court. He's excelling, intelligent, articulate, genuine. And perhaps most terrifying of all for the tabloids, he's lived this case. Now, pause for a moment, because that last part is key. Lived this case. This isn't a hypothetical. This isn't a celebrity dabbling in activism between polo matches. This is someone who has spent decades being hunted, hacked, stalked, lied about, and then told by the same people doing the harm that it wasn't that serious. And suddenly, in a courtroom where facts actually matter, that lived experience has weight. Real weight. And that's when things started going, let's say, not great for the other side. Now, here's the part I absolutely love, and if you enjoy irony, you're going to love this too. According to the clip, ANL's lawyers made a tactical decision to keep Prince Harry's cross-examination brief. Brief. In legal language, that is the courtroom equivalent of saying, yeah, we tried. We did not enjoy it. We would like to stop now. Because let's be honest, lawyers don't go easy on witnesses out of kindness. They go easy when pushing harder would make things worse. This wasn't mercy. This was damage control. This was the legal version of touching a hot stove and going, nope, nope, that's hot. We're done. And that alone should tell you everything. Let's talk about why this is such a nightmare scenario for the British tabloid press. For years, they built a narrative around Prince Harry being emotionally unstable, intellectually weak, easily manipulated, or incapable of understanding complex issues. They needed him to be that. Because if Harry is intelligent, articulate, and credible, then the entire house of cards collapses. And now here he is, calm, measured, clear, answering questions without losing his temper, explaining his experiences without exaggeration, not performing, not posturing, just telling the truth. And suddenly the press isn't controlling the narrative anymore. The courtroom is. One thing that keeps coming up again and again is how composed Prince Harry has been. And that's fascinating, isn't it? because these same outlets spent years describing him as angry, bitter, unhinged, emotionally volatile. And yet, when he finally walks into the one place where shouting headlines don't work, he's steady. It's almost as if the caricature they sold to the public wasn't real. Shocking. And you can practically hear the collective sigh from certain editors thinking, wait, he was supposed to crack. Why isn't he cracking? Because here's the thing. Rage is easy to dismiss. Calm truth is not. The courtroom strips away performance. No dramatic music, no misleading headlines, no anonymous sources close to the situation, just questions, answers, evidence. And Prince Harry didn't just show up, he showed up prepared. Which explains why the cross-examination didn't last long. Because when a witness knows their facts, understands the system, and isn't intimidated by theatrics, there's not much room to manoeuvre. You can't confuse someone who knows exactly what happened to them. Do you really think the tabloids expected this? Of course not. They expected a stumbling witness. They expected emotional outbursts. They expected contradictions they could splash across front pages. What they got instead was someone who turned their favourite tricks into liabilities, and that's why this moment matters. Because it exposes something very uncomfortable for the British press. They are not as powerful when they are forced to play by the rules. Rory Lynch's comment that Harry has lived this case is devastatingly accurate. You cannot out-argue someone's lived experience. You can't gaslight someone in a courtroom the way you can on a front page. And when the person speaking has spent decades watching private moments turned into profit, when they've seen how misinformation spreads, when they understand how narratives are constructed suddenly, the tactics don't work anymore. The smoke clears, and all that's left is accountability. Notice something else. After moments like this, there's often silence. No big victory laps from the tabloids, no triumphant headlines, no crowing about destroying the Duke of Sussex. Just quiet. And silence, in this case, is loud. Because if this had gone well for them, trust me, you would know. This isn't just about Prince Harry. This is about precedent. This is about whether powerful media organisations can continue operating without consequence. This is about whether individuals, even famous ones, are allowed to challenge abuse and win. And that's why so many people are watching closely. Because if Harry can stand up to this system and be taken seriously, what does that mean for everyone else who doesn't have his platform? Imagine the internal meetings right now, the legal teams, the editors, the PR departments. Someone saying, "Okay, so that didn't go as planned." Someone else replying, "Let's not dwell on it." And someone in the corner quietly realising that for the first time, the press isn't in control of the story. Prince Harry is. Love him or not, one thing is now undeniable. Prince Harry walked into that courtroom prepared, composed, and credible. And the fact that his cross-examination was kept brief tells you everything you need to know about how well he did. Because when the truth shows up calm, informed and unafraid, the people who rely on noise suddenly have nothing to say. And that brings us to the end of today's breakdown, where once again reality showed up in court and certain tabloids quietly wished they'd stayed home. Prince Harry didn't need theatrics. He didn't need rage. He didn't need headlines doing cartwheels for him. All he needed was the truth calmly stated, clearly explained, and backed by lived experience. And judging by how brief that cross-examination suddenly became, it's safe to say someone on the other side realised this wasn't going the way they hoped. So if you've enjoyed this video, if you appreciate facts over fiction and accountability over noise, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps the channel more than you might think. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're not done following this story and you definitely don't want to miss what comes next. And while you're at it, drop a comment below. Do you think the media underestimated Prince Harry? Or was this moment always inevitable? I want to hear your thoughts. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, you can buy me a coffee using the link in the description. It helps keep the lights on, the research strong, and the commentary honest. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for supporting, and thank you for standing for truth over tabloids. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and don't believe everything you read in the headlines.